Let's move over to school finance. The assumption is that you all have hit the pause button effectively on the question of school funding while the court case is resolved. We'll get a ruling here whenever we get it, then we'll have an appeal in theory. The whole question of what you're going to fund schools, how you're going to fund schools, pardon me, at what level, that's kind of being pushed down the road a little bit, Chairman, correct?
By the school districts who filed the lawsuit. They're the ones who caused that to happen. You know, we've grown a little cottage industry here in Austin to sue the legislature over school finance. And the people who are benefiting from it are the attorneys who filed the lawsuit.
You begrudge the school districts?
I begrudge the attorneys that are egging them on. This is not the way you solve this problem.
How do you solve the problem, Chairman?
You sit down and you work it out together. We are partners in local education, and you don't sue your partner. This is not the way you solve this problem. But as I said, it's become a cottage industry. File these lawsuits, push it out there, get it to the courts, and it's a terrible way to make public policy. But you have a handful of districts that think, I think incorrectly, that this is the only way the issue is going to get solved.
Governor Dewhurst, Mr. Chairman, said last week he believes we should take a couple $1 billion out of GR, I think he said out of GR, and put it to the side, kind of as a hedge against whatever the courts decide. Do you agree with that?
I think that's a good idea.
How much?
I think that's the order of magnitude.
Couple billion.
It's going to be around $1.8 billion to $2.2 billion, something in that range.
So that might actually be less money that you have to spend now because you're going to essentially put that in the
well, I think in our base bill, we both funded enrollment growth, and I think there's some things that we need to address in education. And when we looked at that, I pointed out some of the areas that I think that we could work on, and our work groups and your subcommittees will start to consider all that. It's very difficult to put new money into the formulas when they, first of all, are so opaque. Even the TEA can't tell us when we put money into the formula who's going to get the money. It's ridiculously complicated.
Right.
And so I think the simplification of that and the resolution of the lawsuit, so I think we're looking for, at least on my part, I think probably an epic battle on this in 2014.
Chairman, put money aside?
I think we have to put money aside or leave money on the table, because that's what I worry about when we talk about tax refund, is that we've got this looming IOU probably, we don't know yet, that we need to keep the money so we can fund our public schools. We did put it on pause. We can't outguess what the Supreme Courts are going to do, and so I think that probably this whole session, we're just probably going to do status quo.
Did we, Chairman, did we adequately fund public education last session? Governor said famously at the beginning of this session that we had phenomenally funded public ed for the last 10 years. Do you agree with that?
You know, when I go back home, I haven't seen the layoffs. I have not seen the layoffs. I have not seen the layoffs. I haven't seen the teachers and the school superintendents haven't come to me and say, oh, woe is me for this session. Now probably I'll get some calls now, but I don't think that we have underfunded education. I think that we have a huge demand for additional money in education that we'll be hearing from the courts in the next year.
You're satisfied that you sufficiently or adequately funded it last session?
You know, I was a former school board member, I guess. As my kids would say, they never got adequate enough money or Christmas presents, but you know, I think we were able to give a basic education to all of our students.
Chairman.
Well, I think I agree with Chairman Pitts to a large extent, and what I would say is my personal observation, two things, they're anecdotal. The school district where my kids went to school, one of the 10 largest in the state, they cut their tax rate and they've maintained one of the highest pay scales in the state for new teachers. And so this is a fast growth district. They're absorbing, those fast growth districts absorb most of the enrollment growth in the state, about 90% of it. They've become very efficient. We have a lot of very inefficient districts. And so the efficient districts have found a way to make it work. The other thing that I would say is I've had some superintendents from very large school districts say, thank you, I never could have fired these administrators unless you'd cut my funding.
So in some ways, you did them a favor.
They won't say it publicly, but
They say it to you
me
privately. We found out in the course of the revenue estimate that we had miscalculated or maybe estimated what our available money would be in the last biennium to the tune of $8.8 billion. If you had known back then that you had that additional $8.8 billion, would you have cut public education to the degree you did?
I don't think the legislature would have done that.
You don't think the ledge would have cut it?
No, not without the pressure of the budget shortfall. I don't think we would have.
You know, I agree with Tommy on that, is that I would say 10 years ago, I don't think the Texas legislature would have cut money on public education. In fact, in 2003, when we had another shortfall,
right.
I remember being called, I was chairman of the subcommittee on appropriations for education, and the speaker called me in and said, you cut education, and there's not one person on the House floor that will vote that way.
Right.
And so we did a corrective amendment and put $500 million from public ed
back in.
Right. And we got the vote.
So what was different this time? The pressure was just too great?
I think there was a reality that we didn't have the money this time,
Right.
and that was a reality.
Right.
And how could our comptroller look, how did she anticipate that our oil and gas discoveries would be so good in the last 2 years? And,
right.
And she did, she did the best she could with the knowledge that she had.
Well,